Dan doesn't like soft intros, so we're going to have to do a proper intro. Hello and welcome to the NCG Top 100s podcast. I'm your regular host, Tom Irwin, and I'm joined, as ever, by regular special guest, Dan Murphy.
Hello, Tom. How's it going?
Not too bad. Now, we have been caught a bit unawares this morning because we are due to be playing we were due to be playing a winter foursomes at 8:30 this morning. Both of us had the same idea, which was, have a shower later after golf. Then it was called off due to fog and frost and God knows what else. So now we're playing at 11:30 and we're squeezing this podcast in, but neither of us had a wash. It's a disaster, isn't it?
It's a good job it's a podcast.
It's going to be clipped up all over social media and people are going to be saying, what the hell's happened to his hair? Has he not got an iron? That's why, anyway. I've just got back from America.
Florida?
Yeah, it's a bit weird, actually, because I've already sort of done this on the Steve podcast. I do want to talk about it a little bit. And I have been looking forward to doing this podcast basically for 10 days because all I've been doing is watching comments on Facebook pile up and sort of enjoy myself replying to people. So these sort of Scottish Top 100 podcasts have become a bit like therapy, where I get to sort of hear from the horse's mouth why things are where. And on here, you can just chat away and no one can get you.
Yeah, it's a safe space, isn't it? Like it's all everyone's friends. Everything's got a reason. Everything's in its place. It's not quite the same in the wild west of social media.
There's no risk of Grant Dougid popping up and going utter pish or whatever it is he says about once every 3 hours. I like doing this. We did this for Angle List a couple of years ago. They turn into sort of lovely essays for our website. So if you don't want to listen, you can read about what we've got to say on there. So we're going to work through the top 10, presumably in 10 to 1 order.
Definitely in reverse order, yeah.
But before we get into that, I want to... do you want to ask me about Florida or not?
Just tell us a little bit about Seminole, but don't empty your ammunition.
Well, I want to do a podcast on... I can't quite work out how to do it because we shot 48 hours in at Streamsong. So I quite want to do a 48 hours at Streamsong podcast. But I also sort of want to do a kind of Florida Uncovered type of thing. The Seminole thing was it was a bit otherworldly, really. We kind of went there the day after arriving, so sort of very jet lagged. 1 minute it felt like you were in Terminal 2 at Manchester, and the next minute you were kind of on the first tee at Seminole next to some ex-presidents. It was all a bit weird. And Man U beat Man City, so it made the whole thing a bit even stranger. It's a bit like sort of dreaming for a day. But it was great, and I think I'd read so much about it and listened to so much about it in the run-up to going. I think I'd got myself in a place where I was expecting to be underwhelmed, and I wasn't.
Which is always a good place to be. So does Seminole bear any relation to any of the courses we're about to discuss today?
Well, it's designed by Donald Ross, who is obviously a doorknocker and used the links at Dornoch as his muse for lots of his great American designs, Seminole probably being the most famous.
The Seminole one.
Actually, it's probably not his most famous, is it? Pioneers number 2 is probably his most famous. But yes, I would say that his fingerprints are sort of littered all over it. And one of the big things there, I mean, the membership is like just unbelievable in terms of the people that they are. But one of the things that really came across is what incredible custodians they are of the golf course. And that was like the topic of conversation was the kind of nuances of the grasses and the bunkering and the green surrounds and the shapes of the greens and what was happening here and all the rest of it. So that was incredible because they obviously sort of appreciate what they've got, which was tremendous to hear.
More so than our own courses do sometimes?
Well, it's very salient, isn't it, in some of the conversations we have about our own golf club. I also played a couple of other Ross courses on this trip, kind of private clubs, one up near St. Augustine and one in Tampa, which we'll get into in detail. And they were kind of similar in the sense that they're very respectful of the original architect's intention. And they're sort of very private members clubs with no delusions of hosting US amateurs or whatever else. So I think that kind of sets you off on the right track, really, that is you sort of protecting what has made the thing great in the first place. And I think there's some good examples in this country, some close to home, where they're the kind of architectural epicenter and they kind of need maintaining as museum pieces so that what that architect intended never gets lost.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would ask you more questions, but then all we'll be doing then is a podcast on Floridian golf.
Yeah, I would like to
don't think that's what people have come for today.
No, and whilst I was doing that, you were at BTME, which, like,
Yeah.
I know it sounds stupid, but I mean, it's also a really good week from a course's point of view and the people you meet, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Doesn't really compare with playing multiple Donald Ross designs, does it?
I mean, there's lots and lots of upwardly mobile people in Harrogate who would love being in Harrogate.
Yeah,
They're very
no,
happy
no.
with themselves about being in Harrogate.
You may really say that the serious players turn up in Harrogate, while those who like to go gadding about end up in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but some would.
Right, but that was presumably quite good from meeting a course manager point of view, and
Yes, yep, lots of interesting, serious people there. I do like the buzz of BTME. Actually, I do find it's a very purposeful show. People are there because they're proper, serious, credible people, and it's always good to see the course managers and greenkeepers because, in all honesty, we don't see loads of them. They tend to keep themselves. They operate when we're not on the golf courses. So it's nice to get a chance to chat to some of them. And their awards ceremony is always a highlight, and it's recognition that's well deserved.
fair play. Right, do you want to get stuck in some of this Facebook stuff? So we're going to do a bit of a mailbag on what people have been saying about our lists on Facebook and other social media platforms, mainly Facebook, to be fair. And I think we've sort of wrung this thing dry in terms of trying to extend its life, in terms of how we've promoted it. And people have said, I think you're flogging a dead horse now and things like that. I think it's worth saying that we want to kind of make sure that it's announced properly when we've got a new list, because it takes the best part of a year to put together, from kind of long listing the courses to then arranging the panel to go and play the courses, to writing to the clubs to say we're coming, and then amalgamating that data. Like, it's not something that just pops up out of the blue overnight. It's a long, long process to put it together. So when it comes to sort of announcing it, it feels like we should make the most of it. And I'm sort of pretty pleased with how we've done it. And I think what we've done in the last week, where we've kind of been showing people how courses are ranked for our different criteria, has also been good, because that is a bit of a peek behind the curtain, isn't it? And giving people more insight into how the final list is arrived at. It will stop soon, though, everyone, so you can relax. So I've tried to pick out sort of 3 or 4 different things about what people have been saying, tried to put them into some themes. Massive stitch for me when I was in America. I couldn't believe this happened, right? So I am not on this godforsaken panel because I am sort of involved in the commercial bits of our business. I organise tour events up and down the country. So I'm not on the panel, so I can quite rightly say that it's not influenced by me. And I'm sort of pleased about that, because we fall out about that, and I would quite like you to be moving places up, but you'd have refused to do it. So then I went to a Golf Genius Golf Day on Tuesday last week, and I was joined with 2 absolutely lovely people from Kilmarnock Brassey, the general manager and the guy who's been a member there, sort of man and boy. They both had, actually, it's a brilliant story. One's general manager, one's runs the house aspects of the club. But they both grew up there as juniors, and now they're both employed there. One's been away around the world and come back. But they've got 2 people who are sort of very invested in the club. They obviously knew who I was, and we sort of got into the Scottish rankings very quickly. And they very gently and very politely said, why on earth has Irvin Bogside, who are a near neighbour of theirs, moved up 30 places? They've moved up a couple of places. And this has come up a bit, actually, with people from Ayrshire on social saying that's a massive leap for Bogside.
It is. Yeah, it is. So the first thing to say is I genuinely welcome the scrutiny, because for any of our faults, we don't just burp the lists out. When we do a list, it's because we've got something to say, and we spend hours and hours and hours putting them together. I'm not saying it's a hardship, but we think about it long and hard and deep to do the list that we do. So people asking questions, well, in a civilized way at least, absolutely welcome, and it's great. It's great they're doing so. So yeah, Irvin is a good example of this kind of thing. So it's really simple. We had Irvin wrong last time. And unfortunately, and as much as it pains me to say it, we don't always get it right. And when we've made a mistake, I just want to correct it as quickly as I can and make it right. And I'm very happy to do that and be out on view. And I totally understand that it's a very logical rise, because why would Irvine suddenly be 33 places higher? I believe that Irvine is pretty much where it ought to be now. We had it too low. Now, what happens sometimes is you get panels who are excited about a certain course, and then that ends up too high. And sometimes with somewhere like Irvine, the honest truth of it is that the last time we did our Scotland list, we didn't get enough panellists there, and the ones who went just weren't particularly enthusiastic about it, and the result was that it came out lower than it should. So that was a real drive of mine last year, to say to the panel, I'm always whipping them to go to places where I don't think we've got enough data or enough up-to-date data. And Irvine was one that I kept telling people last year. I said, look, I'm uncomfortable about where that is, and I want us to go and take another look. So we did send quite a few people there last year, and what do you know, they found what they found, which is a course that has been there for a very long time. That was wonderful turf, a couple of very memorable holes early on, and I think much more accurately represented. So I think that was just a mistake by us last time that we've tried to correct.
Right. Is it ranked higher than Troon? Old?
No, it's not ranked higher than Troon Old.
Right.
No.
Do you know why I'm asking that question?
No.
Because before I worked in the golf industry, I came up on a golf trip with you and Chris Bertram off of Golf World, and you picked me up from Prestwick Airport, and I went, right, where are we playing then? And you said, well, me and Chris are going to go and play Troon, and we're going to drop you off at Bogside on the way.
Did that really happen?
Yes, it did.
Did you have a nice time?
A great time.
Good.
It wasn't quite what I'd signed up for, but I did have a lovely time, yeah. So I'm all for Bogside climbing the rankings.
Good.
What else have people been saying? Right, we're going to have to talk about Donald Trump. I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
So it's kind of like something that is regular as clockwork. Is once you put this stuff out, and if the lists have got Trump courses on, of which there are obviously 2 in Scotland, 3 now, I guess, 2 on our list. Let's not get into that. That you get people popping up saying we shouldn't be ranking them, and I wouldn't set foot on a property owned by Trump. And obviously, you can sort of see why people would have that opinion. We choose to include them still. Why is that?
Well, if anybody chooses to visit a course or not visit a course for literally any of 1,000 reasons, then that is entirely up to them. I personally couldn't care less who owns a golf course in terms of putting these rankings together. I consider it our task to try to identify the best courses in Scotland in this case, of which the Trump courses are certainly among them. And just in the same way that just because somebody puts a certain green fee on a course, and that makes no difference either as to how good the course is. It's just a number that someone's put alongside it. Similarly, it makes no difference to me the owner or manager or clientele of a certain club. All I'm bothered about is the golf courses themselves. So it's just not an issue for me in terms of putting the rankings together. But I certainly respect anybody's view as to whether a particular club is for them. And that if you want to go to the Trump courses, fantastic. And if you don't, there are 98 other courses on our list this time around that aren't owned by Donald Trump, so I don't think he'll be running out anytime soon.
It's difficult, isn't it, for golf as a thing, but like the political sensitivities that it bumps into, like Trump being a really good example. Like the RNA have obviously had to make some decisions which they've not really been public about, but I think it's sort of unquestionable that Turnberry's off the radar. I'm not going to say rotor because it's not a rotor, off the radar for an Open anytime soon. And I think there are kind of a few reasons for that, but ownership is definitely one of them. And the kind of, it's the same as the live question really, isn't it? Is that the media are sort of asked to play kind of moral or political arbiter about something that is kind of when they signed up to write about sport and golf courses. So I think golf is in a difficult spot, and I think that if we start saying we can't rank this golf course because of its ownership, then the next thing people will be saying was, "Do you know who owns this golf course?" And we wouldn't have a clue, would we? Because why would we?
Where would you stop?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's clear that up. Back on sort of more safe territory. I think we covered this a bit last week, but someone has asked it again about the Brora move down.
Yeah.
And I think we're probably going to get into this a little bit in the top 10 conversation about kind of trends and groupthink.
Yeah.
But just to touch on that, we have done it a little bit before.
Yeah. So every year the panel changes. There are lots of reasons. I mean, even if you didn't want your panel to change, it would change. I personally really, really like my panel changing.
Yeah.
So you're constantly refreshing. I'm always challenging my panel. I'm saying to them, look, if you're not going to be out there in the year of the ranking, you're not going to be out there playing the courses, seeing them as they are, in this case, in the year 2025, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, and I'll find people who are willing to go and do it. So, of course, when you have a different panel, then you end up with different courses that do better or worse. I don't. There's no sense to me that Brora has got worse since we last did the Scotland panel. I think that we had a particularly enthusiastic Brora panel last time around, and I personally think that we've probably got it more accurate this time. But I mean, as recently as last week, we have a very, very lively WhatsApp group with our panelists in it, and there was we were discussing this exact thing about Brora. And look, there are people in there who would who deeply love Brora and think that we've got Brora too low now, that it's gone a little lower than it should have done, and I'm very respectful of their views. Equally, there are others who say no, I think you probably got a little bit romantic about it because it is that kind of a place. And then it was a really interesting discussion, wasn't it? When we got into things like the what you really truly value in a golf course. Obviously, we were discussing it on the last pod. So so it is a move down for Brora. Hate moving courses down. Especially in a case like this where there is no, it's not like it's got worse since we last did it. But all I try and do with one list is make it more accurate and better than the last. And as I said 5 minutes ago, I don't shy away when if I think we've got something wrong, I'll put my hand up and we'll try and get it better the next time because I want people to be able to trust our lists. And go and play the courses and think, actually they've got a point.
Yeah, and it is weird because you sort of feel like people think then, oh, you don't like it then, but that's obviously not the case, and particularly not in that case.
No.
I mentioned earlier that we've been publishing some of our ranking criteria and the way courses have come out for the different criteria as opposed to the overall list. So we've published things like scenery and surrounds and architecture and design. Playability and test is one that has kind of triggered people a little bit. I guess the sort of query is that how can we be ranking somewhere for playability and it being a test when those two are kind of polar opposite ends of what people look for in a golf course. I really like it as a criteria. Do you want to try and explain that?
I mean, I think about this a lot when I'm playing top 100 courses and contenders, and I think the holy grail for a course designer, if you ever speak to them, is how do you make a course that is simultaneously fun and a course that you can enjoy and get round for the average golfer who's struggling to break 100. But equally make it always interesting and intriguing and a test for the best players. Now it has never been more difficult than it is at the moment. As we discussed it plenty, when you have tour pros who can drive the ball 330, 340 yards hole after hole, and yet your average guy or girl might be hitting it 180, 200 yards. It's nearly impossible. So the best courses are able to do both of those things. It doesn't necessarily mean that they, by the way, that the expert can't break 75 on them. I don't think that's it at all. I think it's allowing some separation and allowing the best players to show their skills, so that, you know, if you're playing with your mate and you are a bit better than your mate, and you play the same, that you will get the reward from it on a course, because there will be shots that reward your slightly superior skill. So it's just courses trying to do everything in one go, and it's incredibly difficult to do.
Yeah, I think that's very well explained. I think it's a really, really good category that we've got, because only the best courses offer that. And it's a Mackenzie principle, right? As in, is it a test for the better player, and is it playable for the weaker player? And I think that, if anything, what is happening is that there's been a bit of a switch in that bias, hasn't there? So you say, oh, it's impossible to kind of protect against the modern tour player for loads of places. And I think lots of architects and lots of renovation projects have kind of realised that, and they're now presenting courses for the majority of us, as opposed to trying to protect it against the 1% or the 0.1% even. And that, it feels more logical to me, that.
Yeah, to be fair to the architects, I mean, that they are dependent on their brief, and to this day, generally, if you've got a high profile piece of land to work on, the brief will be, this needs to be able to hold a tournament of some description. You know, it's generally a very important part, so that, you know, they have to deliver that. And yet there is this acknowledgement, as you say, that, you know, 99%, more than 99% of the golf is going to be played by amateur golfers with all of our flaws. I think that Tom Doak is someone who's been is at the forefront of this. You know, a couple of his recent designs, St Patrick's Links and Old Petty at Cabot, you're going to see this, where they're absolutely with no shame. They're not looking at tournaments. You know, that's not to say they aren't big golf courses, because they are. Like I think St Patrick's is something like 6,800, and Old Petty is over 7,000. But the Doak is not thinking about trying to host you know, major professional events. He's just trying to make good golf courses, and I wonder if you might not see a little bit more of that. It feels like hosting professional events isn't quite seen as the be-all and end-all of a golf course as it perhaps was.
No, I think for a lot of these sort of modern great architects, they're beholden to their funders, right? And Mike Kaiser's got this concept of retail golf, and if you look at developments like Streamsong in the States, or Comporter over here, or the courses you mentioned in this country, they're designed to make people have a nice time. They're beautiful to look at. There's plenty of room off the tee. You can make birdies, but you're not going to get beaten up and lose all your golf balls. And it's giving people what they want, basically. So I do think that is a trend. And I think it's a trend that coincidentally plays into the hands of a lot of the golden age courses if they're presented properly, because that was kind of the way it was.
Yeah, so you used to go to an open venue to get beaten up, and you know that's how you knew it was an open venue, right? And you also used to go to a lot of these courses to be insulted. I mean, that it was kind of part of it at a few places where, like, that was, you're sort of, you know, it's sadomasochism or something, that you quite enjoyed people being sort of grunting at you, or being you sort of just lucky to be there, and you know, it's weird, isn't it? And you used to, you know, if you got a tiny corner of the locker room for visitors that was a bit smelly, but you could leave your shoes, you were like perfectly grateful. And there's obviously an enormous change there now, and really the visitors to a lot of these courses on this list, only at the top, they're really calling the tune now, you know, because they're paying astronomical amounts of money.
Well, I think we'll probably get into some of this in the top 10, but there is definitely a difference between how modern money wants to spend itself and how old money wants to spend itself. So I think if you are kind of someone who has made your money late in life, when you've got your free time, you damn well want to do what you please. You want to wear what you want to listen to what music you want to have a drink wherever you want, you want to park your car wherever you want, and you don't want to be losing all your golf balls. So I think things are evolving, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that is definitely a trend.
Yeah.
Right, come on then, let's get into this top 10.
Okay.
You're going to have to do the start off, because I haven't got the list in front of me.
Yeah, okay, so number 10 is Castle Stuart, what used to be called Castle Stuart, but is now called Cabot Highlands.
Well, that's quite a nice segue, isn't it, from the last conversation we were having?
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the poster boys for this style of golf course. I think one that's aged very well. I was up there as recently as last October, seeing it for the first time in a couple of years. It's this is a golf course where you have a great time. It's very much one of the first courses to embrace this idea of wide landing areas and then lots of fun and intricacies around the greens. So, our idea being that you can get further down the hole. It's also very spectacular. It's kind of terraced, isn't it? Kind of banks you down to the sea, onto the Moray Firth, so you can see the sea from, if not every hole, then as good as every hole.
Yeah.
It's scoreable. It's just a place where you're just happy to be.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right to use the expression poster boy, because in this country it is the poster boy, isn't it? It's in amongst loads of traditional Scottish golf. It's right next to Inverness Airport. Like you say, it's in the Highlands, so it's remote, but it's actually a doddle to get to for people from the city coming up, or people with connecting flights from Heathrow. It couldn't be closer to Inverness Airport. It's a Hants, isn't it? Or he certainly collaborated on it at
Parsonen,
the start.
The late Mark Parsonen.
And there are elements of the course at Castle Stewart reflecting the Hants that I've just played at Streamsong Black, where it is miles wide off the tee. Miles wide, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was there in spring and just drove the ball like an absolute idiot, but I was still finding the periphery of fairway or short grass, didn't lose any golf balls. I had a couple of shots off the beach, that said. And I think I've gone sort of full circle with it, because I think if you're going there to be a curmudgeon, you'd sort of say, well, actually the golf course is not firm enough to show any teeth. It's too wide off the fairway. It's not testing anything. But it's actually just such an amazing setting. Like you talk about the terraces, and they had some problems, didn't they, with the land collapsing when there was an event on there, which I don't think helped. But the way that they've used the land to afford views over the Firth the whole way round, basically, I think is amazing. They've got unbelievable infinity greens on the holes that kind of are the furthest inland, basically. So you're still getting a peak of the water for most holes. I think there's plenty of golf course, actually. Like we played it on a pretty breezy day, and I think I got it round in sort of 73 or 4, but that involved a very good kind of back nine. And I think that a lot of these places are it's really easy to break 80. It's harder to sort of break 70 for your average sort of scratch plush-ish golfer. And that's kind of what you want, isn't it? I think it's really hard to be anything but kind of glowing about it, because the service levels are so high, the conditioning's so amazing. I think there's plenty in the design, because the greens are huge and funky and angles do matter. And obviously it's in an amazing setting. So it's really struggling to sort of lose points, basically, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of three, arguably four, which we'll come on to later, one of three new courses in our top 10. And it when you think of it, it blows your mind, doesn't it, that 3, if not 4, almost half of the Scotland top 10 is courses that are young. And you would think, what an achievement! What an achievement to build a golf course in Scotland, of all places, and be able to get that high up the list.
I think the other thing that you have to bear in mind with places like Castle Stewart and Trump and the Streamsong courses that I've just been to, I don't know if I've mentioned it, is that you and I and other people on the panel have been to places like that a lot. So if you go like Comporta's the same, St Patrick's Links is the same. They're like links golf on a huge scale, right? I'm not sure Comporta's really a links golf because it's surrounded by trees, but you take my point. The scale of the places and the kind of vistas are just incredible. And it's weird being at Streamsong because you spend the whole place on one property for 3 days, 2 days, and it all looks the same. And you start to take it for granted. But when you first get there, you're like, Jesus Christ, massive skies, huge waste areas, ridiculous dunes. And Castle Stewart's like that, and Trump's like that. And if you go there, if you've been there several times, you sort of go, yeah, I get it. And I think you have to constantly remind yourself that someone who's going there is kind of the centre point of a trip. That is mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
And you can talk all you like about London links and leaving links and whatever else. Yeah. It does not have the same just sort of blows your mind, collision of the senses effect as some of those places do. And you can argue whether that should make it rank higher or not, but it is a fact that it kind of is in people's heads, just the scale of it.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be some people who it is one of those courses where it's people's favourite.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And equally, I know that I'm sure there'll be people listening who say, "I've never been, but it can't. You're just getting carried away. It can't be that good." Well, we've done several of these lists now, and it keeps punching in this part of the list.
I can imagine Sean Arble sort of going about it, but for a lot of people, it would be their sort of favourites, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So then, what's next?
So another new course, although confusingly now called an old course. So we're now into Trump International Scotland. So we're in Aberdeen. It's the original course, now called the Old. And this is our huge riser. Huge riser. That is, it's up. I sounded a bit like Trump then, didn't I? Huge riser. It's up 8 places.
Can't do a Trump impression. Might try.
And breaks into our top 10 for the first time, into number 9. I'm very happy to see it there. It's come quite a long way in our list, actually. We were actually there on the opening,
Really well,
when Donald Trump was there, long before his presidential days, but it was still quite a surreal experience.
Was it?
Oh yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was there. When was it? 2012?
Yeah, it's not 13.
Yeah. So yeah, before his first term, which started in 16.
I mean, it was quite the thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think he played with Montgomery. His sons were there, I think, and he got like everywhere he went. He had a bagpiper following him around, didn't he?
Yeah,
Plus like a massive SWAT team.
Yeah.
It was very strange being there in the media because they made us wear sort of yellow bibs so he could see you coming.
Yeah.
It was quite an odd thing.
It was strange. Yeah. Now it's my view that the golf course has improved massively since it opened, as most golf courses do, tend to be like fine wines in that respect. If they're well looked after. I was there. I was actually there twice last year, but I played the Old very early in the season. I mean, in terms of agronomy, just astonishing. Everywhere else we went on that trip, it was the might have been the last week of March, but certainly the first week of April, and everywhere else, it had that early spring feel, which is absolutely fine. I mean, whereas at Trump, it was like winter never happened. It was like sort of the reverse of Narnia or something. Just don't know how they do it, but the course was just absolutely.
Does it play
prime.
properly though? Like, as in, like, is it too overdone for the patch of land that it is for the links golf?
Well, I think that it's improved massively in that respect from when we started, where it didn't. In truth, it was the grass was sticky, and it was very green. I think what it has got is a lot of elevated greens, which to some purists they would say too many of those, because obviously the thing about a green that's elevated that far is it does make it more difficult to run the ball into it, which is something that I love trying to do, and I think most links purists would say the same. But it is way firmer than it used to be. So that certainly when you're around the greens, I think you do now have the chance to show some imagination and some versatility in your short game, and it does demand it because of the way that the green's set up. That you kind of need to have different shots if you're going to get the ball close or anywhere near really when you're playing the short game shot. So I think it's much better. It's also softened off. It was quite extreme at the start, which often you say kind of have to grow the rough up, and then you can start managing it. So at the start, I mean, if you
it was
remember,
impossible, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're stupid enough as we were to go off the tees that were about, I don't know what they were, 7,500 yards on a squally day, and they're all up in the air, aren't they? Which so yeah. But it's become more playable and they've widened it. I actually think they could still go further in some places off some tees, but it is way more playable than it was, so that there's less of that element of reloading, because it certainly felt at the start that you needed a decent sack of balls to go out there.
The elevated tees is something that's a personal niggle. Like the 18th is like 100 feet in the air, isn't it? And I know it affords like ridiculous views down the last hole back to the clubhouse, but it does feel a bit strange when it's obviously so windy so much of the time. The one that points directly into the North Sea, I think, is it 14?
14's the spectacular par 4 from a very elevated tee going away from the clubhouse.
Yeah, but it's got no bunkers.
No bunkers.
Yeah, but that's pointing directly sort of northeast, and the tee's like 80 feet in the air. It just sort of feels like you have to top it to kind of get it to go forward sometimes. So I think the elevated tees are a bit of a niggle for me. It is an amazing bit of land, isn't it? Like just in terms of the dunescape and kind of the overall scale of the property. And what the other thing I would say about Trump is that we've had kind of a lot of outpouring of local opinion about various different places on the list, and this has been a real theme in that Fifers pop up and tell you you've got Fife wrong, and Ayrshire people pop up and tell you that you don't write enough about Ayrshire, and etc. etc. But there isn't really, I don't think, much distaste for the Trump course amongst Aberdonians. I think they're quite fond of it. It's obviously brought a lot of jobs to the area. I think they're sort of proud to have it. And they're not that way about other courses necessarily in Aberdeen. So I think that probably speaks volumes that a kind of county of Scotland that is full of kind of good golfers and people who know their golf are quite respectful of the golf course.
Yes, I think that's a really good point. I think there are people who are ideologically opposed to it, which is fine, but they're not qualified to judge whether the golf course is any good, which is all we're trying to do, because they haven't been. I agree. I've in my experience, the people who have been speak very, very highly of it. I think it's hitting the spot.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's covered that off.
So from the very, very new, or the relatively new, to the very, very old, Cruden Bay is up one place in number 8.
Oh God, here we go.
So now we are into dangerous. It's funny, isn't it? You would say that having left Trump behind, that we're in calmer waters, but that's possibly not true with Cruden, because here's one of those courses that that polarises. And what you tend to get here is you tend to find that visitors just absolutely love Cruden, and it gives them memories that that get them through winters. They think back to the moment sitting in the clubhouse, or surveying the view from the first tee, or maybe playing that incredible 4th hole for the first time, the par 3. Or standing on the next tee. There are so many knockout moments at Cruden Bay for the visitor, but there is definitely a feeling among the locals that it's, I guess, a bit of a theme park of a golf course. It's kind of, if it was a footballer, it would play in moments, rather than tracking back. So yeah, there is there are a variety of opinions on Cruden.
So I think some of the stuff about Cruden Bay I'm going to sort of save for the North Berwick conversation. But I guess the two things are definitely linked in that they are polarising, as you say. I think one of the things I'd say about Cruden Bay is that the kind of a lot of the negativity is coming from Aberdonians, right? And it's from people from the very local area. And I think if you put yourself in those shoes and you kind of also go back to the era when a lot of these people were playing a lot of golf, that a lot of the people that we're talking about who are voicing these opinions are our age and older, right? So you're talking about people who've played they're in their sort of salad days through the 80s and 90s. And all these things are contextual, aren't they? So in the 80s and 90s, you played all your away golf competitively, right? Mm-hmm. You didn't go like on random buddy trips or book something through Your Golf Travel or book something on Golf Now Tee Off Times. It didn't exist. So you certainly didn't operate as a marketing body for the local area. So if you grew up playing your golf at Mercer or Royal Aberdeen or Fraserburgh or wherever else, Cruden Bay is basically just your arch enemy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's your local derby, isn't it?
Yeah. And when you get there in your local derby, you've got to hit it onto a green that's 40 foot above you with a pitching wedge on the second. You're almost definitely going to lose your ball on the third. You've got to play a dogleg par 3. You've got to play a par 4 into a bathtub green where you can't see your ball land. And you've lost one down to someone who's worse at golf at you, in your opinion. And so you go in the clubhouse and you go, it's not a golf course. Why am I playing Mickey Mouse pitch and putt round here? And that's where it emanates from, isn't it? It's because their experiences have been very localised and they don't like it. And it's also golf. It's golf from a bygone era, which is the place was built as a tourist destination because of the railways,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
but it's kind of come back on vogue because now what we want from our golf is something that's fun. And the people who don't like it are people who grew up in the 80s and 90s when golf was supposed to be really bloody hard and straightforward and fair.
Yeah. Completely agree. You know, we don't go to Cruden to win a match or often to record a score. You know, we go to make memories, if that's not too cliched, and we go to enjoy ourselves. And we go for one-off moments that will never be repeated elsewhere, and Cruden Bay is packed with them. But I mean, there's no question that if you want to go through the golf course hole by hole, you know, you can find things that certainly not to my taste. You know, there are those moments, and yet on balance, you come off with a spring in your step, and your soul is nourished, and you want to do it again. And it's back to that, you know, that strongest thing of whether a course is any good is, you know, do you want to just go and do it again? And every time I could walk off the 18th green and just keep playing, and that, you know, that's why it scores so high.
But you say you could go through the holes hole by hole. Like, we got into a little bit of this last week about holes. I can tell you every single hole on that property.
Yeah.
Every single one in quite a lot of detail, right? And every single one's different. It's not like you're sitting there going like, it's not like an Alderborough where you're going, oh, it's got one too many par fours that are over 400 yards. Every single thing is a woo and a wah and a way and a roller coaster ride. So in terms of like memorability and having a good time, like it's like an 11, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a good point. Is you can the holes change direction all the time, don't they? They change character so wildly that
I've probably been three times, and I reckon I could draw you the golf course.
Yeah, and you know, they're still looking at the moment. I believe they're still considering some plans from Mackenzie Ebert. And some of them are quite far-reaching because of the golf course. You know, it could be unknotted to quite a significant degree. I'm not sure where you'd stop if you started, and I tend to think that you have to love it for its imperfections. I don't think you'd ever be able to create a perfect golf course from that particular piece of land.
Well, they did it at the Macquarie, didn't they? Like the Macquarie's a good example of that. So it went from being kind of mousetrap to almost like resort golf. And I'm not saying that one's better than the other, but it has fundamentally changed its character, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's a good comparison. I would say that the piece of land at the Macquarie lent itself to doing something completely different, whereas I feel like, you know, short of using some TNT, just the shape of the land and the fact that there's a couple of very narrow bits, and the fact that it goes up to such a degree means that I've seen the plans, and you can see the logic behind it. But I think it would be the risk would be losing its charm. Yeah, although you're absolutely right, and I think they've done a phenomenal job at the Macquarie, actually, making a better golf course.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, Cruden Bay. I think, like even sitting here now, you can sort of see the tee shots and the second shots and stuff.
Yeah,
that's got to say something, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's there's a lot of courses we talk about that you just want to be there. I mean, if we were there now,
excited about going.
I really would. Yeah.
Go on then. What's next?
Yeah. Sorry, I should have said at the start. I'll just run through the top 10 just so you know what's coming. So so 10 was a bit like top of the pops, isn't it? So 10 was Castle Stewart, 9 was Trump, Aberdeen Old, 8 Cruden Bay, and then we're going to get to in order Kingsbarns, Carnoustie, Dornoch, North Berwick, Muirfield, Turnberry, and the Old Course. So just so you know what's coming. So 7 Kingsbarns. So here we are.
Another new golf course. What are we doing?
Another new golf course. Yep. And this one, I mean, like Castle Stewart, very, very much created. I mean, this wasn't discovered. Kingsbarns was a golf course, 9-hole golf course back in the day, wasn't it? But it's not like there was this piece of links land. This isn't, oh my God, you should come up here. There's a piece of links land. It's the equal of anything. If we put a golf course here, it could be this or it could be that. You know, Kingsbarns, let's be honest, was some fields, clifftop, and yet from it created a course that now sitting 7th in our Scotland list. Again, just such an amazing feat of architecture, and again, as has redefined what we look for from a golf course. Because when it came along, I mean, a lot of people said it's not possible to build a new golf course that people will want to play more than they will want to go and play at the Carnousties and the St Andrews of this world, and yet they've created it, and it's arguably now it's not as apart from the old course, I would say it's probably the number two in terms of the destination that in terms of demand that people, especially internationally, want to come and play. Well, I mean, it's just an achievement that boggles the mind, isn't it?
It's probably the easiest one to dwell on in terms of cost. So this has been a sort of another theme of people's voicing their opinions on social media is why are we ranking places that are inaccessible and too expensive? And Kings Barnes is a good example. I can't remember what we were quoted in terms of a rate for taking a tour event there this year, but it's basically 500 quid, I think. That's a lot of money, isn't it, for a game of golf? It's another place where the service levels are exceptional. It's another place that gives you a massive chance off the tee. We played it in early May and got it on actually quite a windy, difficult day, which was sort of pleasing actually to sort of see what that was like. It's got some very high highs, hasn't it? Like as in the best holes there are really quite special. I absolutely love that short four. Is it the fifth on the left hand side of the clubhouse?
Yeah, it's always been my favourite. I love that.
It's absolute jaffa of a hole. Yeah. It's like very old school.
Yeah.
And then when you come back over the road, I think the golf course then gets going for quite a significant period. You've got the very easy drivable par 4, which I think is really cool, and then the par 4 on a shelf, and then the par 3 into the bottom, which is probably a bit weaker, and then you obviously go back to the clubhouse. Now those holes, I think if you were going to kind of be critical of Kings Barnes, it's what are you saying about its weak points? And 9, which I think is the hole back to the clubhouse, it will be, won't it? And 10, the one away from the clubhouse, and 11, the one into the corner. I'm just not sure about them, particularly 9 and 10. 11 probably got a bit more to it, and it's quite a good second shot. And then you go through the trees and you play the absolute worldy par 5, like which they basically got a pull out of in the scorecard. They're trying to make so much of it. But I mean, it is an amazing hole. That sort of just sweeps around the bay, and you kind of want to get a tee shot away because you want to take the second shot on. And then you play 2 very kind of meh holes on the top, the par 3 and the par 4. And then you back to worldy land with the par 3 over the bay and the par 5 on the water and the big par 4 into the corner. And it finishes a bit sort of damply, doesn't it, over the pond. So it's a golf course where it's got undeniable highs, right? And the whole time you're pointing at the sea, it's very clever in the sense that it's kind of like on a ridge, like you say. But its low points to me are probably lower than the low points at Castle Stewart, for example. But I mean, it's impossible not to love going there again. Like if someone says you're going to play golf at Kings Barnes tomorrow, you're getting in the car straight away, aren't you?
Yeah, you are, yeah. I'd actually say pretty similar for me in terms of highs and lows compared with Castle Stewart.
Yeah.
Arguably might say the highs at Kings Barnes are even higher.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
But I just think you pay the price on this kind of golf course with this terraced effect, where there are changes in elevation, where you're trying to get very close to the sea. I just think that what goes up must come down, and I think that if you're going to make that journey to the edge, unfortunately, you then have to come back and you have to come inland. And I think that if you're being absolutely hypercritical, that is where this type of golf, this very spectacular golf, and you could say it for several courses on the top here. There's one glaring exception we're going to come to, and I'm going to explain later why it's my favourite, because it doesn't do this. Where to get the highs, you kind of need to have the lows, and I think that in some ways it's what makes them so special, because they are literally elevated above some of the other holes. So that is your choice. And look, I think it absolutely hits the spot. I mean, just like on a roller coaster, you don't mind going up really slowly because you get the thrill of going down or then going upside down, and that's what these courses are doing. I mean, they're essentially thrill rides in terms of a golf course, and people are taking away memories, and that they're hitting the spot on that. So it's a success, a design success.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're sort of used the analogy before that it's like going 10-pin bowling with the with the bumpers up, isn't it? It's kind of helping you round the whole time. It's a Kyle Phillips, right? He's the same designer as the Grove. And I always think when I'm playing the 9th at the Grove and playing the 9th at the King's Barnes, they're both the same hole. If that makes it, I don't know if you can remember playing the Grove. It's kind of getting you out of a hole and back to the clubhouse. And he's done it with a par 5. But it is very strange how similar they are. And I think that kind of shows you that how you are compromised on your inland holes when you've used the coastline so much. But I mean, an amazing spot in it.
So then we go for something completely different, albeit very close geographically. So we just go across the Tay estuary, find ourselves at Carnoustie, which is up 1 to number 6. So here we have none of those Kodak moments.
No.
Very rarely see the sea actually at Carnoustie. In fact, if you don't know to look out for it, you see it on the 2nd, don't you? I'm sure there probably are the odd other chance, but not many. Presumably come from the 3rd tee if you turned around, I would guess. But you basically you're not really engaging with the sea. You don't really see any sand. So it's very, very flat. I mean, so flat in comparison to really all of the courses that we've discussed. It's quite interesting that, isn't it? We have 4 courses where you have changes in elevation, and then Carnoustie, it's just the opposite, isn't it? And so a golf course where the people perceive as being hard and people perceive as being grey. Like people think it's sunny at King's Barnes, but it's not so sunny at Carnoustie. And
you love it, don't you?
Yeah, I love it. It's just my kind of thing, really. I
nearly wrote on social media that it was your favourite open road course, and then I sort of backed off and said that our top 3 was probably Lytham, Muirfield and Carnoustie.
Yeah, I mean, I just love this type of golf. This is really what it's all about to me. One of the great closing stretches in all of golf, albeit I don't love the 16th myself, but the rest of it, absolutely as it should be. I also don't find it that difficult. I actually don't think it's more difficult than other open venues. I actually think it's pretty clear off the tee where it wants you to hit it, and the greens are like big and flat, so it's probably plays quite well for me.
It's probably the most underrated golf destination.
Yeah,
I would have said.
Yeah,
it's that sort of Angus, Carnoustie itself, because the other 2 courses there are like really good as well.
They are really good. Yeah,
Panmure next door is like amazing.
Yeah,
it's kind of, it hasn't quite got the same sort of hotspot trendy momentum that like some other like bits of 5,000, obviously East Lothian and Ayrshire have, or even the Highlands. These are kind of very on vogue destinations. I think a lot of the Americans tourists sort of tick Carnoustie off because it's an open venue, but they're not staying in Angus, they're not going to Panmure, they're not going to play the other courses at Carnoustie. So in many ways it feels like it's possibly the most underrated of the highest rated golf courses, if you like. It also delivered probably the greatest sort of modern open, right, of the last sort of 15 or 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Molinari one. Oh, it was amazing.
It's a good one, yeah.
It was dusty and sunny, and Tiger was in the mix, and Spieth ballsed it up, and it was like an amazing open, no?
I don't know, the last 2 Troon Opens have been pretty good. Stenson and Mickelson was the greatest shootout I can think of.
On it.
The last Open at Troon was phenomenal, I thought. But yeah, it was a great Open, yeah. And certainly in conditions, it was memorable, wasn't it? Because you had the sight of people driving it to within 80 yards of the last green, which is just absolutely crazy. But it was just the wind that week, and the fact that it was running out 100 yards or whatever it was. That was it. So a hole where we remember Paul Lawrie trying to fly the burn with a 4-iron and having to get every last millimetre of ball on club to make the carry, and then by contrast, you've got people trying to hit a half wedge into it. It was absolutely mad, but I mean it stood up. It was an amazing Open. I agree.
I sort of almost seen it in sepia. Maybe it was because Tiger was sort of in the mix.
That was exciting. Yeah,
but it was. I loved it. And it was just, I thought that whole week was great. It was the Open that Ashton Turner qualified for, so maybe I'm fond of it for that reason.
Yeah.
And I'd been up that summer to film at Trump Aberdeen, actually, with Dan Whitaker, and I'd gone and played in the MasterCard Day, which involved some holes with Tom Watson at Carnoustie, which was pretty amazing. It's a funny start, isn't it, where you sort of got that blind first tee shot, and then after that, it's just absolutely exceptional, isn't it? I love the second tee shot, the way you have to sort of hit that hold off fade off the left,
What a hole that is.
and that little short 4/3 is absolutely incredible. The next two, the next one with the split green, the next one sort of up the hill onto that big green in the sky,
Yeah.
and then like when you get into the back nine and like storied holes, right? Like Hogan's Alley, obviously, which by the way, sort of properly delivers on it, doesn't it?
does, yeah.
Like it's kind of a split fairway without meaning to be a split fairway.
Yeah.
Like genius piece of design. And then the sort of grandstand finish, which I think starts a bit earlier than people say, because 15's brilliant.
15's one of the great holes, yeah.
And the last three are just sort of bananas, aren't they? Like in terms of like the level of difficulty they are in the right wind, and certainly for the kind of the club golfer where you're trying to hit a long iron or a wood onto a tabletop green. The next one you're trying to like use sort of islands between the Barry Burn, and the 18th sort of delivers on that sort of grandstand finish that you want from an open venue in all but the wind they got in 2018 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I think it's an absolutely amazing golf course, and I think again it's another place where the holes are like completely memorable. Like you can basically describe every one as you go round, and it's in like it's a very, very workaday town, isn't it? It's really quite a strange thing if you think about like where North Berwick is, or where the old course is, or where Troon is in terms of old Scottish money and all the rest of it, and it's just not like that, is it?
No. It's the polar opposite of the courses we've just been discussing, isn't it? But I don't think it doesn't try to be anything it's not. I've always felt very comfortable in Carnoustie. Actually, I quite like it. It feels proper to me. It's the tightest lies I've ever played off in my life. You go to Carnoustie early season, like it is. There's so little grass, and it is basically you're like one grain of sand away from just like dunching it with all your iron shots. I just think it's like the most proper test of your golf, of your striking. It's not like impossible. Like it's not. If you hit the ball solidly, like you will get your reward for it. But if you're not striking it properly, and if you slightly skew whiff, you'll find yourself getting punished all day long.
And it probably has suffered a little bit, hasn't it, with the Carnoustie tag, particularly if we're talking about sort of people are trending towards being playable.
Stupid, because it's just a particular setup. It wasn't the golf course's fault, It was just
a storm.
It was just the wet spring and the lush conditions, and then a particular desire at that moment that to pinch in the fairways, and there you had it. It was just so unfair to the golf course.
Yeah, go on then. What's next?
So next up, Royal Dornoch. I should say
what numbers are we on?
Well, number 5.
Okay. Of course, this is below North Berwick, isn't it?
No changes in our top 5 this year, so these are all as you are. Very, very close actually. So Royal Dornoch, the top 5 is clear of what's below them, but we have North Berwick and Royal Dornoch came out very, very close this time around. So not much in it. 2 courses with plenty in common, I would probably say. I struggle to find why you wouldn't want to go and play golf a lot at both of these places. Dornoch starts very quietly, but if you say that the golf course improper starts with the third, which is very unfair to the second, but it's the reveal, isn't it, when you stand on the third tee and you see the whole thing below you. It's just a golf course that every golfer wants to go and play. And now I think people are getting why. It's those upturned saucer greens, isn't it? It's those proper little pot bunkers that surround holes like the short 6th. It's got those changes in elevation that we're very similar to Cruden Bay in that respect, where there's a climb and a hole on the top that probably isn't the best moment, but does give you a great view. And then you get the fun of coming down again, and then you're right down by the sea for a long time. It doesn't finish well, in all truth, compared to some of the other courses it keeps with. But again, you love it because of its eccentricities and because it's not playing by the rules. And then the whole thing together just makes you warm and romantic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to know where to start, isn't it? I think there's sort of so many themes that you could pick up on. I think it was, for me, my personal experience of it, I think it was the first Royal golf course that I went to. And I think it was probably the first golf course that I went to that was of kind of that kind of stature. So I think I've got all of those sort of feelings of kind of wow about it, and that sort of never leave you, right? Because it's the first time you've experienced something that's kind of just so dramatic and so on that scale. And the Royal thing is interesting because you kind of go there thinking you got to get your suit and tie on. It's going to be stuffy old colonels and all the rest of it. And what we found was like the opposite of that. It's kind of a clubhouse that's like very much the centre of the town. People dropping in and out, wearing whatever they want. Very sort of convivial atmosphere, which was brilliant actually. Like as a going to that sort of venue for the first time was like really refreshing. The golf course is just, it's kind of like I'm going to say this again when we talk about North Berwick, but it is an architectural epicenter, isn't it? Like I've just been to Ross courses in Florida, and you can basically see holes at Dornoch that he's tried to transplant elsewhere. 17 at Seminole is basically a carbon copy of 7 at Dornoch. It's like a tiny little par 3 with a ridiculously long, narrow green. It's got pot bunkers on either side and a tabletop green. Like it's not against a massive dune, but it's the same. It's the same sort of thing. And like people have tried to replicate Foxy about a gazillion times around the world. In fact, there is a similar hole at Seminole, which is a draw off the tee and a fade for the second shot. So all of these things kind of emanate from somewhere, don't they? And they emanate out of a lot of these classic Scottish courses, and they're now reproduced on a grand scale at American private clubs and American resorts. And it's a weird thing to sort of experience that. I've seen that somewhere before. So there's all of that kind of stuff. We filmed there with this kind of 10th generation Dornocher, a guy called Alan Grant, who looks a bit like Billy Connolly. And he sort of tells these amazing stories about the links land and how it kind of links the farmland to the sea, and kind of like in a very sort of poetic way. But there is something poetic about the whole thing, isn't there? The way the golf course wraps around the Half Moon Bay, the kind of statue of Sutherland in the distance. It's all just like, you have to go really and see it. And then the other side of it, you'll meet people like David Thompson, who was the pro at Skibo forever. He appears in the book Season in Dornoch, written by
Lorne
Rubenstein. And he's very much of this kind of 1980s tour pro ilk, where golf's supposed to be hard, and he'll tell you that all the holes at Dornoch are silly and it's not a golf course. And you can, if you want, make those sort of arguments, and you can criticise the last 3 holes and all the rest of it. But it is an unbelievable place that is about more than the golf course. I think it's kind of the part of the fabric of the town, and I hope it doesn't get ruined and turn into an American resort with the investment that's happening. But it's a beautiful place.
A favourite of mine, a hole that doesn't often get talked about, I've always loved playing it, is number 5, which is a short par 4, about 350, 60 yards from a slightly elevated tee. And and the whole thing, it's got this huge green that's up in the air with bunkers at the front, and the whole thing is determined by where the pin is and where the wind is. You could essentially, the tee shot is sort of your choice, because you sort of hit it any way you want really. And then just depending on what's going on, you might decide to try and get it up near the green, but you might be able to stop it or control your shot from there. So you might think, actually, it's a front pin, I'm going to play further back. And it's just pure strategy and then pure skill of execution of your second shot. And it's a hole where a 20 handicap could go and make a birdie on it. And a scratch golfer could drive it near the green and then end up with a shot they can't really do, and end up going up one side and off the other and walk off with 5. And I just think that's we talked earlier about holes that are both playable but testing, and that is a hole to me where that fits the brief.
Yeah. And I think it's also worth touching on the conditioning. Like, we were there, spoke to the greens team, and we were there in April in the Highlands, and the greens were just incredible, and everywhere else we'd gone were early season, like what you'd expect, right? And we're saying to them, what do you do? And they were like, we don't do anything.
Yeah,
it's just all of they let the natural fescues do their thing. And they were so puttable. And I think the greens at Dornoch are kind of something that are not talked about enough. On the day we were there, we were all playing really good golf, hitting the ball great, and bogey after bogey after bogey, because the whole thing happens around the greens, doesn't it? And it's another one of these golf courses where breaking 80's fine, breaking 70's a different matter altogether. It's brilliant. Right, so that concludes the first half of our top 10 rundown. I'm so pleased it's ended here because we can end on the cliffhanger that is North Berwick. And everyone can wait another week to find out why North Berwick is ranked so high, why we're right and you're wrong. Thanks for listening.